Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Brick Rigs. We're here on the city again, and I'm just going to be showing off some new designs that I've made. But first, I'd like to get everyone reacquainted with the tanks that I made, the tank line, because I've recently gone through and rebranded, redesigned, made them all pristine military. And have a proper structured theme around them. So this is the medium tank, which used to just be called the medium tank, but this is now the medium tank MT1 Mark 1. Obviously MT standing for medium tank, and then 1 because this is the first incarnation of it, well, the first design of a medium tank that I ever made. And Mark 1 because this is the original design. And so I'll just take it out here, let the train go past. I will just show off the basic designs of it. So first of all, it's got, where is the sun? I don't know. This looks good enough though. So as you can see, it's got sloped frontal armour, sloped side armour, sloped rear armour. The turret is all perfectly sloped as well, with the sloped front and rear of the turret. It's got all the wheels on the side, it's got an engine deck at the back. This never used to be here. This was an extra add-on which I did when the radio was, when the aerial was first introduced to the game. The sides here, very bulgy, and that's because I basically used I tried to make it as a sloped side, but still give room for the crew inside. So these are just sort of placed on pieces on the side. It makes it very bulgy. The turret looks a bit odd, I will admit. The machine gun wasn't actually in the game yet, so this is the machine gun that I made for it. So it's got the driver's position there, you've got a hull gunner's position there, you've got a radio operator here with a little radio. Up top, you've got a gunner's seat here, which of course you can, which the gunner would use to aim and fire the gun with. You've got the loader's position at the back here, and then you've got a commander's position up the top with a little cupola here. And yeah, that was the basic medium tank design that I created, and it is now having rebranded the tank, this is now the medium tank MT1 Mark 1 for the original tank design with the single shot machine, with the single shot main gun. And it's a well used design. I used it for mostly everything. First of all, I'll show off the command tank. In fact, if I just get the original medium tank here, it never used to have gun elevation nor turret traverse, which anyone who's used the tank recently will know that it now has got gun depression elevation, and it can traverse the turret in a 360. However, it never used to have that. This is as far as the turret used to move. It used to be a static turret. I'm going to move away from the thing there, but yeah, so the turret never used to be able to turn. This used to be it. This is how you drove it, this is how you fired it. If something wasn't in line of the gun, too bad, you're not hitting anything. However, now of course it has got gun elevation, gun depression. The turret can traverse, as you can see. It can traverse all the way around. It also has a camera on it to help you aim and fire it, for example, shooting at that. Or indeed just shooting at anything really. And so yeah, I just sort of added the camera onto it, and yeah, never used to be able to look at it like this from the driver's view. So yeah, that was the medium tank. I then made a variety of them at various stages. First of all, I'll show off the command tank because it's the thing which has changed the least. If I take this out, as you can see, pressing Alt, yeah, turret does not traverse. It's still got the original, roof on it apparently as well, which is just a flat plate, studded. It's not flattened or anything. It's just a flat studded plate. As for the bottom of the tank hasn't actually changed at all. The hull gunner's still there. The radio operator down the bottom for the tank is still there. The main gun, however, is fake. This is attached to a fake barrel, which is then just sort of like attached to parts of the tank. It's the faux barrel look, which is what they used for things like the Sherman Calliope, so that it sort of hid the tank's true nature and made you think there was still a main gun on it. But this is indeed a fake gun, and also, as you can see, the entire top of the turret has been stripped out to make way for various radio sets and various radio stations. So the crew, there used to be a crew of 6 in this tank. Yeah, there used to be a crew of 6, so you had the gunner, radio operator, commander, loader, gunner, commander, driver, yeah. But now instead you've got 4 radio operators, hull machine gunner, driver and a commander, so you've got a crew of 7, and I changed it as little as I could in order to make it blend in with a medium tank Wolfpack, except the gun is slightly off-center and it also has extra aerials. That's the only way that you would be able to tell that this is a command tank and therefore not a combat vehicle. Then I created a Bergpanzer, which... well, I actually based this off of the tank destroyer hull, but for all intents and purposes the tank destroyer hull is the medium tank hull. So you've still got the driver, hull gunner, radio operator, but then whilst it retained the sloped armour, the top of it was based... I sort of based this design off of the Bergpanzer Panther, because that sort of basically had a wooden box sort of mounted on the top with a crane and various other things. So this has got a couple of spare wheels. You've got a toolbox there of various tools for doing field repairs, and you've also got a crane which would be able to move across, and it would also be able to sort of lift up engines and things to help position them inside tanks and help mechanics and things do repairs. And then I've created a little ladder here out of some of the griddle pieces here. But other than that, apart from the lack of a turret, this is the same sort of hull. So I created that. Then what else is there? You've of course got the Wonder, which is the experimental heavy assault gun, where I tried experimenting with rockets. Now you can barely recognise this as the same tank, really. The actual thing has got this huge elongated reloader at the back. It's got a massive main gun, which is a fixed gun. It's a assault tank, really. It's not a particularly protected front, as you can see. This is a sort of slab armour, and then you've got actual glass there. The side bits have been sloped and things and rounded to try and keep with the sloping, but really you can't really see that it's based off of the same hull design, but it is. And just because this thing is so great, I'm just gonna free cam over here, and this thing is an actual breech loading rocket artillery, basically, because you've got the radio operators being moved backwards in order to accommodate the entirety of the hull. The hull gunner has been removed. The driver is back. The driver's still at the front. You've got 2 people there who would be loaders, whatever, cleaners, whatever you want. It's got this whole reloading mechanism which allows the tank to not only elevate but also allows the breech to be swung open. You've got various warning stickers on here, such as explosive for the rockets, warning because you can get your hand trapped in the breech. I think I've got another... There you go, another explosive sign on the back there. You've got the engine deck at the back there. You've got another seat there, so it's a crew of sort of 5. But first of all, you'd fire the rocket, bang, collapse a building. There you go, that's one thing taken out. And then the controls for this thing, fairly simple. You've got pitch is how you would open the breech, and as you can see, the breech does actually swing open, allowing you to move in there. Then you press Alt, and then it's page up, well, which is for me pitch, but then you use Alt and pitch to push the plunger in and out, and then again to close the breech up, and yeah, you've got another rocket loaded in there. Not only that, Alt and using throttle will adjust the elevation of the gun, and as you can see, bye bye Mr. Rocket, away it goes. And that is the heavy experimental heavy assault gun. And just in case you were wondering, there we go. Just in case you were wondering, it is an effective anti-tank weapon. If I just get out something like a mouse, perhaps, because of course I do have a bunch of tanks. Why wouldn't I? Let me just find a suitable target for this thing, such as the mouse. Boom, there we go. So let me just spawn the mouse, lag, yeah, boom, lag everywhere. But then if I just sort of position the mouse over here somewhere, there you go, that looks good enough, and then I just get my small heavy assault cannon, and as you can see, the assault gun, even with the reloading mechanism, is dwarfed by the mouse. Just goes to show how big the mouse is. And then the mouse at an angle of, say, that. Let me just sort of like back it up even more, perhaps, say something like that. Aiming at the sloped side armour of the mouse, there is the, of course, driver's position, or driver's view. At the sloped side of a mouse, let's just have a look. Boom. And yeah, it's sort of, yeah, the mouse is gone, basically. Yeah. That's an entire mouse rolled, split, with the front armour basically off. No wheels left, rolled, main gun basically blown off. And yeah, this thing was basically designed to be an assault cannon, but well, it's also good as enough anti-tank weapon as well. So there was that based off of it, and then you've got the final thing, I do believe, is this thing, where I experimented with smaller anti-tank rockets after I experimented with my light tank design for fitting it with a fast mobile chassis capable of carrying anti-tank rockets. Was the only criteria I gave myself for that. So I decided to try and make it with the medium tank, and as you can see, the sides have basically been stripped off, and in place of them, actuators or turntables, which have then got rocket holsters, and these rocket holsters have got a slight bit at the back to stop the rockets sliding off when they're elevated, but these things can elevate with the main gun, which, if I just show you here, there you go, see, they elevate. They can elevate. They can't depress because otherwise the rockets sort of fall out. But yeah, they fire. They do damage. More inaccurate than the light tank, because this is basically secondary armament. But if I get something else out of here, such as an M26 Pershing, if I get one of these things out and I position this frontal armour on, so it's thickest armour. Well, it's slightly at an angle actually, but. Yeah, if I just get this thing here, turret traverses, of course, main gun also still available for firing, bang, as you can see. But of course the main gun is not what we want to be aiming up the rockets here, so the rockets, they're at a slight angle, so if we just fire this one, as you can see, not that accurate. That one happened to curve, would have gone into the building, as it happens, goes into the ground like that. Okay, don't know what happened to my tank there. But let's just re-aim this thing up. Rather finicky, but nothing. That's going to be a direct hit. Bang, right onto the front of the turret. That's right into the gun mantlet. Boom, there goes the main gun. Debris littering everything. Yeah, all the wheels bang off due to the explosive power of these rockets, and just for good measure, let's try and hit it with another one. Nope, that one was far too high, and that one's probably going to miss. Yeah, again. So yeah, only one on target, but I mean, look at that. It's knocked out basically, and then of course you've got a main gun just to deal the final damaging blows to the tank if it was still trying to put up any resistance. But with no main gun, as you can see, there's the breach in there. Yeah. That tank's not going anywhere anytime soon. And that was basically experimenting with rockets. The rockets are simply propelled with nitro, which I decided to use in place of C4 because it has a much lower impact resistance, meaning that it's basically an instant explosion, and it also has decent enough explosive pressure to blast through armour. Yeah, but there was that. And then I decided to rebrand everything. This was no longer just the medium tank, this is the medium tank MT1 Mark 1, as I said, and the Ministry of Brick Warfare, as I coin it, or the MOBW, basically interviewed some crews, did some more trials and testing on this thing, and decided that it was not worthy enough. There were multiple problems with it, wrong with it, that's the wrong thing as well, that's the wrong medium tank, I want this one. And basically what they found out was multiple things. First of all, turret was getting too easily knocked out by infantry. An infantryman could easily jump onto these sides, even though they are sloped. He could easily jump onto the side, grapple onto the back, jump onto the back of the turret, knock out the commander. lug a grenade right into the open commander hatch, because of course nothing covering it, so they could simply go up there, whack, knock the commander out, pull him out, whatever, grenade into the turret, bang, destroy the breach, kill the crew inside, and then the tank would basically be a non-combatant at that point. And that was the biggest, one of the biggest killers of crew of the tanks in the theatres of war. But not only that. Not only could infantry climb up, however, large caliber HE and heat weapons from infantry carried bazookas and things were getting through the armour of the tank, which meant that the MOBW decided to introduce these things, which are side skirts, which have been used since basically World War II, and the side skirts basically dissipate the explosive power of those particular types of projectiles and warheads by having thin pieces of armour which basically are connected to the tank but on struts. So the shot would hit the spaced armour, it would transfer all of its explosive and kinetic energy into the side skirts, meaning that nothing would sort of hit the side of the turret, meaning that only the flimsy side skirts would take the impact. They would invariably get blown off or torn off by the explosion, but the actual turret armour itself would be unscathed, and the crew would be alerted to the threat on their flank, effectively saving a tank and a crew, and possibly turning even the tide of battle. And so what the MOBW decided to do was basically layer the sides of the tank with side skirts, because one of the other bigger killers of the tank was the fact that the wheels were too exposed, meaning that anything could just sort of ram into them, jam up into the wheels, blow off the wheels, and the tank would be left to combat ineffective, and basically be a massive target. But then not only that, rather large silhouette due to the massive bulges on the side of the turret, so they basically decided to cut them off, flatten them off, stick side skirt armour onto it. It was far more effective. And also, not only that, actually no, that is the main, those are the three biggest things, which is the impact on the non-side skirted armour, grenades being chucked in there, and also the massive silhouettes. So they adjusted that by adding on a hatch for the commander's cupola, adding side skirts on, and cutting off those side bulges was the biggest things that they did. So as you can see, side skirts, they are rather effective. The hatch can be closed now, so bang, hatch is now closed. No infantrymen can easily lug a grenade down there without opening the hatch themselves, by which point they would probably be alerted to their presence. Also, the side skirts have that other additional thing, meaning that the infantryman has to basically attack from the rear, because if they're charging from the front, whole machine gun. If they're charging from the sides, side skirts, basically a flat wall, they're not going to be able to scale that with all their equipment, which means that they basically have to get to the back of the tank, which is making it more difficult for them to actually get up there in the first place. So yeah, the hatch can be closed, you've got the side skirt armour, the main gun itself can still traverse and things, the turret can also still traverse, as you can see here. It can still traverse and everything. And of course still fire. Bang. Bang. There we go. So as to how effective the side skirt armour is, if I just sort of leave that there and I get out something like the normal medium tank, there we go, the Mark 1 medium tank. As you can see, that one's rolling away. Stop that. I don't know why they're doing that. They should have, their handbrakes are always on, but apparently they just decide to roll away randomly. So yeah, if I just sort of position this thing sort of about here, like so, and then I take aim with this thing, bang, side skirts, they took the impact. I mean, you can sort of see part of the side of the turret there, however, compared to what this thing would have happened to it, it's not that big of a deal. Same with the sides, as you can see, there is a bit of side armour flaking off there, however, the side skirts did take the impact for them. And then if I just switch to this one, and I do the same thing to it, aiming at the side of the tank, well, at a slightly more extreme angle there, if we just sort of position it like so, and now we aim for the side of the tank. As you can see, one shot, instantly exposes the engine down there, and then second, third shot, boom, down it goes. Whereas with the side skirt armour, makes it slightly more difficult to actually get through to the more exposed inners of the vehicle, and of course the rear exhausts there are ongoing, which is just a little neat little extra. As for down here, nothing has changed. However, up here with the commander, except not with the commander, with the loader is how it will be more easier to see. I added in some extra things such as shells, which is just a neat little extra which I just decided to add on, which was just to make the interior of the tank look slightly better. So yeah, as you can see, this brick did come away. However, as you can see, the engine not quite as exposed as the other turret, as the other tank, whose turret has been indeed blown away there. So yeah, that was the Mark II incarnation of the tank. However, once those things had been around for a bit, some of the crews obviously got quite attached. Those of them who were deemed veterans, let me move it out of the way, those of the crew that were deemed veterans often decided to improve their own tanks and modify them and make them their own. And this one was no different. This one was in a desert war, in one of the desert theatres, and the crew made several of their own modifications, making it unique. As you can see, the desert paint job to show that it was in the desert. Then you've got barrels on the back which would have provisions, extra petrol, whatever. They also added extra side. They also added extra flaked armor, no, extra side skirt armor, which basically covers up the transmission of the lower glacis. And so that's what that's there for. They also added their own little funny little sign on the front, because you know, you can't be in the military without a bit of humour, can you? So yeah, there was that. Not only that, they also added hatches for the hull gunner and also for the driver. They also improved the hull gunner by improving the machine gun that was mounted in there. This closes along with the commander hatch, basically meaning that what they noticed is that several of their comrades were getting sniped through the exposed hatches. So what they did is they basically had hatches which can close in combat. They also slightly redesigned the front of their tank in this case for this crew. They added a tally of tanks that they've taken out. They also named their tank. This tank is called Desert Bloom. They added extra spaced armour on the back. As you can see, they're just mounted on the stilts here, and it's the same sort of spaced armour. Anything that hits it will get taken. Any impact will get taken by the spaced armour on the back. Spaced armour on the front as well. Front of the turret, nothing is spared with spaced armour in this for this crew. So yeah, spaced armour mounted to the front and top of the turret. Not only that, gun mantlet spaced armour. If I show you here, yeah, the spaced armour goes along with the gun. It also helps them aim slightly better as well, because no aiming reticle for the tanks. Also, not only that, they've even more extensively modified it with a coaxial machine gun, which is simply mounted to the tank, to the main gun, which I will try and show. There it is, sort of mounted onto the main gun here, which can be elevated, and it elevates along with the main gun, basically meaning that anything the main gun fires at, the machine gun can also fire it. Also gives them range-finding capabilities. Not only that, as if the spaced armour, extra protection, more hatches, funny sign, extra provisions, naming, tallies, weren't enough, they also went ahead, mounted a roof-mounted missile launcher for an anti-tank missile to give them even more capability against more heavier armour. And then, just when you thought they were done, smoke screen. they can deploy smoke. So that's what these funny things are here for. Yeah, smoke screen. This crew, one of the most veterans of the desert theatre. They've decked out their tank for anything that the desert can throw at them. So yeah, they're decked to the brim. So they've got a slightly more accurate gun due to this sort of V shape, creating a better aiming reticule. Bang. They also have coaxial machine gun, frontal machine gun, as you can see. So yeah, not only do they have two extra types, they also have front hatches, which, as you can see, should deploy. Ah, no, I know why. I know why that's not working. That's because that's in the way. What's that changed to? Yeah, that is changed to pitch. Okay, there we go. I was pressing Alt accidentally, but as you can see, yeah, hatches open and close. Yeah, so they added front hatches due to the redesign of the front of the turret as well. Front of the hull, rather. You will notice that these are slightly different pieces here, right here, and it's also slightly less sloped. But yeah, front hatches. Yeah, not only that. Oh, okay. I don't know what happened there. I think something's gone wrong. There we go. Not only that, anti-tank missile. Bang, does the thing. Thruster comes back at you. Yeah, not only that. Smoke, for when you need to get out of there in a hurry. Smoke screen just deploys sort of in front of the turret, so you can sort of just, yeah, escape from your peoples. As you can see, if you were getting targeted from, say, you were hiding around this building, somebody's targeting at you. Sort of you're like this, aiming at someone, bang, shooting at someone up in those hills. You see them aiming at you. You can sort of deploy smoke and sort of, yeah, back it up, and then yeah, that would basically make it harder for them to aim at you because they try and rush the shot and invariably miss. And yeah, as for the effectiveness of that anti-tank missile, let's just get up another tank here, which you might be facing. Let's just get up something easy like, I don't know, an Su-85B. My tank's rolling away again, don't know why it does that. It likes doing that, it has a mind of its own. But yeah, so if we just sort of get our tank here, don't do that. Okay, it hasn't quite worked apparently. Still hit it, did a little bit of damage. Okay, let's... There you go. You do have to adjust elevation slightly with it. Also, it helps when the rocket doesn't try and fall out of its holster. So yeah, this thing can elevate. They've really gone all out with this crew. Let's just sort of try that. What's that going to be? That looks like a hit. Bang! It was a slightly low hit, but no doubt blew off most of the wheels. Tank was sent flying in the air. Hatch is gone. Driver's gone. Yeah, that's where the driver would be in there. The actual tank itself, maybe not quite as damaged as you might like. However, they're stuck on wheels. They can't go anywhere. Main gun basically blown out. Yeah, basically gives them slightly more effectiveness against more heavier targets, but then also they've of course got the machine guns and the main gun, and they can sort of blow away at things and then go for the engine shot and boom, there we go. People flew everywhere. So yeah, that was the MT1 Mark II for the second incarnation, and that is the Desert Veteran. Yeah, the Desert Veteran version of it. And then we come to the MT Mark III. And what they noticed here was that lots of the veteran crews were doing the same sorts of things, adding improved armour, adding extra armaments, giving extra hatches, and so the MOBW finally gave it and went, alright, we understand this. What we're going to do is we're not going to actually change up the armour like the Desert Bloom crew did. But instead what they did, added more hatches on, so they did add hatches which did close over the crew compartment there, so it's fully covered there. The second thing that they did, more armaments. Hull machine gun was improved, coaxial gun was added, the same way as many veteran crews did. So yeah, extra protection. Yeah, sorry, I'm just comparing the notes that the MOBW gave me. But yeah, so it was more protection, better main armament. The actual gun itself wasn't elongated or anything. It was just extra protection there. Thirdly, and the biggest change up until this point, was the improved actual armour itself. Not side skirt armour, but just actual raw improved base armour, which is this stuff, because the original moulded plastic armour, which comes as standard, just wasn't holding up against the more modern things like anti-tank missiles, heavier ordnance. So instead what they did is they improved it with a higher density and higher resilience steel. So all of the base tank was changed to steel. The side skirts still made out of the thin plastic, in order to better dissipate the heat, and HE shells that would invariably hit the side armour. However, what this meant was that whilst the side skirts took all the explosion, the turret did not take as much, like we saw in the Mark II test, where the side of the turret and the side of the hull did still take a bit of damage once the side skirts had been hit. However, thanks to the improved armour that the steel gives, that wasn't quite as much of an issue. Also, visibility is slightly an issue, so they gave it a couple of headlights, so in the dark, going around the base or whatever, through a village or whatever, then you've always got headlights. And then, fourthly, the hull, it was cramped, even by tank standards. It was still rather cramped, and the crews did complain about this, where in a hurry they feared that they wouldn't be able to get out their tank in time before it brewed up, and the ammo caught fire or anything. So what happened was that the thanks to the better durability and survivability that the steel gave, they were able to thin down the armour, which meant that they didn't need the big bricky blocky armour that the plastic had to give in order to be any sort of effectiveness. What they could do with the steel is instead make it thinner. So using these trapezoid pieces, I basically improved the workspace inside of the hull. In the back of the tank, for extra protection to the vitals, such as the engine, the fuel, and all that stuff, I've still got the big bricks here with extra protection offered by the steel, just with the thicker armour. But for the actual crew space, in order to give them more ammo storage and better living and working condition, basically, anything that could be replaced with the trapezoids were, in order to just sort of give better space. So you've got more space under here for the driver to stretch his legs. You've got better space for the whole machine gunner to actually do his thing. You've got the radio operator has now got some better space behind the radio and to the side. Not only that, in the turret, as you can see, space greatly improved. Up the front here, as you can see, plenty of room now up the front here for the gunner. There's the coaxial machine gun mount. It also meant that there was more ammo storage. As you can see, ammo racks can be put at the back of the turret now, whereas it used to be limited due to the simple flat plate of the plastic armour, but now thanks to the steel, you can fit extra ammo storage, which improved the ammo capacity. The struts and everything were still plastic for the side skirts, but the actual turret armour itself, the more resilient steel. Those were the main gripes of the crew of these tanks. So if we take out this one for a spin, as you can see, it doesn't look that different. So anyone that was facing this tank and had previously faced Mark II variants, once the Mark III started rolling out on the battlefield, they would be lulled into a false sense of security, thinking that the armour was not going to withstand their shots, but then when their shots actually didn't do anything to the tank, they would notice only too late to be blasted away by the improved Mark III. The side skirts armour even more effective if we just get it up here, move it over there, say, and we get out the good old Mark I tank again. Boom, there we go. So if we get out that, aim it up, going for the side skirt again, centralised turret location like last time, bang, side skirt. Side skirts was taken away. Side of the turret, unscathed, which is what you want from the thing. And that's what the MOBW wanted in the first place, which was to just basically have side skirts to help dissipate the armour. As you can see, those side skirts are completely taken away. The actual armour underneath it, perfectly unscathed. You would only get a sort of ricochet marker on the side of the tank, which was the whole point of it in the first place. Aiming for the turret as well, bang, obviously hit the side of the turret, slightly flat, broader armour, wasn't quite as effective. You can reveal part of the hull there. The same with the front, as you can see. Were that not the higher density steel, then that armour would most likely have just blown away completely, but thanks to the high resilience of the steel, it's going to take several shots in order to actually do anything there. As you can see, multiple shots onto it, didn't really do much. It's only now starting to blast away some of the armour. And if we decide to take this tank back, let's just reset the armour, and we face it up against something of a slightly higher caliber. For example, if we were to take out the heavy tank, which has got the larger caliber main gun with the longer barrel, and we were to aim at the side of the tank, bang, as you can see, yeah, okay, main gun somehow managed to pop out there, but the actual side of the armour, the actual side skirts, while some of them have popped off from the bottom due to the explosive mass of the higher caliber shell, the actual spaced armour did its work. It blew off, protected the main tank from actual damage. As you can see, another square hit onto the side armour, onto the spaced armour. The bottom spaced armour basically peeled away now, yeah, sure. However, once again, turret side, hull side, perfectly unscathed. From the front, not quite so much, unfortunately, but then without having the entire thing made out of spaced armour, which would just be completely impractical, there's not much really you can do. As you can see, solid hit on the front armour even. At a glance, glancing blow from the front, yeah, sure, some of the armour's starting to break up, but the actual armour itself still intact, whereas were that armour of the Mark 1 or Mark 2, that would have just sliced through like butter. So yeah, definitely a greatly improved version of that tank. And indeed, moving on from the medium tank, let's move on to the tank destroyer, which was the original thing that I did, because the original tank destroyer was basically a challenge with my friend when we first started playing Brick Rigs, and we decided, okay, let's just build a tank. We each have to build a tank, see who can build the better tank, and this was the tank that I created. Low silhouette tank destroyer, single fixed main gun in the hull, no turret, turretless tank destroyer. Inside you've got the main gun of the tank destroyer, two loaders positions, driver, radio operator, and commander sitting pretty in his top turret. And then, of course, I added on the radio aerials at the back when they were first introduced to the game. The rest of it completely sloped, flattened top, cupola slightly sitting out the side, space for the commander, and yeah, single shot main gun. It's been improved slightly with the higher caliber, higher damaging shot of the heavy tank. But other than that, yeah, low silhouette. The driver can easily aim it like that. I mean, if I wanted to hit this house, bang, easy. If I wanted to snipe someone up on that down the road here, for example, then all I would have to do is sort of like that, hitting them, bang. Yeah, okay, slightly misaimed, but you get the general gist of it. And that was the original tank destroyer design. However, once again, the MOBW went through all of the tanks. Also, actually, I forgot to mention the AVRE. The AVRE was based off of the Mark 1 chassis. Again, not like you can tell, because it's basically a giant box at the front of it, but it's got a crane at the back. You've got the two winches. You've got the place for the driver to sit, which is elevated, with a single machine gun to stop behind the lines ambushes. You've got the main scoop at the front here. You've got two big spotlights to help recover things in the dark. You've got pushing actuators, which can basically push up earthworks and foundations. Inside you've got seating for mechanics, whatever. There's the actual push-pull actuators, and then you've got the radio operator in there, and yeah, it was basically a behind the lines vehicle. But anyway, yeah, so that was based off of the all of the Mark 1 chassis. But anyway, moving back to the tank destroyer. The MOBW went through the tank destroyer again, and they had a look at what can be improved, and this is what they came up with. Again, the crews, basically for all of the tanks, the crew said, yeah, we need spaced armour on basically everything. So spaced armour was added to the side of the tank with these big Stug-like side panelling, which just gives it a flat sort of yeah, side silhouette. Not only that, anti-infantry. They didn't have a lot of anti-infantry deterrent. They decided that the crews decided that they need something anti-infantry because all they have is the main gun, like the Mark 1 medium. All they had was the main gun to deal with infantry, and whilst it was capable of taking out tanks, infantry not so much. So a top machine gun was added, which can be used by the commander. And again, grenades were easily being lobbed. Even lobbed, because this thing is low to the ground. They were being either lobbed or somebody simply hopped up, rammed one down there. So yeah, a hatch was added to the top. Still trying to keep the low silhouette. It was placed to be able to fold all the way backwards. So yeah, once again, hatch, boom, down like that. You've got the machine gun up top, which is capable of dealing with infantry. It's got a way of aiming here, as you can see. Very quick on the traverse for the machine gun. So yeah, that's very handy. But then also the main gun. Main gun was basically left unchanged. As for the interior, slightly changed around the interior. Added some shells here, which actually the poor old radio operator is just sitting next to shells. He's just like, oh hello. So yeah, shells were added into the tank here. And yeah, the poor old radio operator sitting right next to them. But yeah, those were the biggest gripes of the crew, really. Spaced armour and lack of infantry, anti-infantry weaponry. Also, the grenades getting lobbed down into the main thing of the crew, often one-shotting the tank, which is undesired. And indeed, if we don't try and spawn in like that. But yeah, so if we just reset the tanks here, move this thing over here. Spaced armour again, spaced armour demonstration, because you know everyone in the army loves using demonstrations for everything. So yeah, spaced armour, bang, side, yeah. Spaced armour took the hit, actual side armour, unscathed. If we were to shoot it again, yeah, we'd get through the armour, but as you can see, that initial hit, that initial impact was taken by the spaced armour, which is what the crews wanted in the first place. Let's just pop off the machine gun there, because it's annoying. But yeah, so as you can see, without the spaced armour, cuts through like a knife through butter, easily able to get through to the engine, and bang, there goes your tank. But the spaced armour, as you saw, managed to take a lot of the hits there. And that was the Mark II version of the tank destroyer. There will no doubt be a Mark III and a Mark IV and who knows whatever marks until they decide to come up with another design for tank destroyers, but for now that's what it was. And the final tank was a heavy tank, because what army is complete without a heavy tank? So the original heavy tank, you may remember, had a slightly different design turret. It was much more sleeker, much more flatter up the front. However, there was no room for seating. It was basically a turretless heavy tank at that point. But an extensive redesign of the turret was underwent. The main gun was elongated to give better penetration power. It was a rear turreted tank, meaning that it could side scrape around corners, made it a very good corner fighter. A single machine gun up the front for the hull. It was mid-engined as well, so you had the driver up the front here with two hatches to get in, hull machine gunner, radio operator, slightly all squished together, meaning that you had to have a good well-oiled crew who liked each other up the front there. Aerials at the back as well here. The camera was also added, as was elevation for the main gun and also traverse for the turret, which was not available in the previous model. You've got the gunner here, who has got this sort of glass viewing area for aiming up the main gun, which is of course the centralised part of the turret. Two loaders at the side here, who would be able to just simply load in the high caliber shells, and those would get fired, boom, out the front. Yeah, so once again, there's the view, bang, able to collapse houses due to the improved impact of the heavier and larger caliber gun of this weapon. Ooh, just managed to hit it there. Yeah, meaning that it could do a large amount of damage, meaning that it was one of the bigger breakthrough tanks, which would be used at the forefront of the assault. The strange turret design is allocated to the need for sloped armour, because of course sloped armour gives a improved chance of ricochet. So that's why this front of the turret was sloped. and looked like that. So yeah, that was the Mark 1 version of the heavy tank, and once again the Mark 2 version of the heavy tank basically used the same sort of designs as the other incarnations of the medium and tank destroyer. And yeah, so just looking over the notes. Yeah, so just looking at the notes that I was given by the MOBW, the same sort of things were highlighted by the crews when they were being interviewed, namely wheels getting blown off. What was actually the biggest killer, because this thing doesn't have a commander's cupola, which meant that nobody really bothered jumping on top to try and ram a grenade down into the closed hatches, but instead what they did, they just turned all their weapons to the drive wheels, and they just sort of blew off all the wheels, meaning that the huge silhouette of the heavy tank, because of course the heavy tank is generally the biggest thing on the battlefield, in terms of armour support, which meant that the giant shape of the heavy tank was a big fat juicy target for artillery, airstrikes, other tanks, infantry weapons, anything, which meant that yeah, the exposed wheels was the biggest killer for this tank. So spaced armour was sort of added to the below here for the wheels, so anything hitting the spaced armour would save the wheels, meaning that anyone trying to attack the tank from the side had to aim at the sloped armour, which would give a dicey chance of penetration, or they would have to blow through this and waste a shot in order to get to the wheels. Secondly, there was the lack of infantry support again, because even though this gun fires good caliber HE shells, it wasn't quick enough to deal with groups of enemies that weren't closely clumped together. So yeah, that was changed. Whole machine gun was improved. Coaxial machine gun was also added to the main gun here. As you can see, there it is here, machine gun there. So that was just added as a coaxial machine gun, so any infantry trying to sneak up on the tank, you could just hose them down with coaxial fire. Also, the third and final other highlight was, once again, anti-heat and anti-HE protection. And once again, side skirts were employed in order to protect the tank from HE shells and things coming from the front. So from the front, it is now wider. It does look far odder. The turret does not quite look as good, but the side skirts definitely do help. As you can see, once again mounted on struts, just simply going in a radius around the turret, and these pieces of thin armour would simply be blown off by the heat and HE shells, and protect the rest of the tank from danger. Also exhausts and things I just added, and also a top deck for getting rid of the heat. Also inside I just added some shells and things. As you can see, these are the bigger shells in order to fit into the bigger gun breech. Also, you will notice that there are two different kinds of banding on the shells. You've got blue and red. Blue is HE, red is AP. So mostly loaded with AP, but there are some HE shells in each of the tanks. So yeah, and those were just some neat little things that I added on there. So yeah. Also, something to note with that medium Mark III, which has got the improved steel armour, acceleration and overall manoeuvrability does suffer slightly due to the higher weight of the steel. But for the Mark II and Mark I, and indeed for all the other tanks actually, the medium is the only one that's received the steel treatment. It works perfectly well. So yeah, that's how it looks. If we get out the Mark I medium tank again, as you can see, there's the spaced armour on the tank. Bang, we shoot it off, and yeah, there's some slight damage to the turret, but that would have been a lot worse if you didn't have that on there. So again, with the side armour, bang, as you can see, side armour took the impact, wheels perfectly fine, also the hull perfectly fine as well. Bang, that one, it was at slightly less of an angle, so it did manage to get through, but then that is again the nature of the that is the nature of the plastic armour over the steel armour of the Mark III. So if we just sort of go over the rough terrain, because you know every tank needs to be able to go cross country, if we just traverse the turret around, doobie doobie doo, once again aiming side on at the spaced armour took the hit, which is what you need, which is also what the spaced armour was designed for. As you can see, that was a flat on hit, and all that happened was the spaced armour blew off and some of the mountings for it. The actual turret armour itself, perfectly intact. Now if we fire at it again, yeah, okay, there's plenty of armour on the side, but if we fire at it a couple more times, as you can see, entire turret just exploded. There's the gun breach, there's the main gun, which was thinned down and made more streamlined to better improve accuracy, but as you can see, the entire turret is just bang exploded. And that's what the spaced armour counteracts, which is, yeah, proves that it works. Now we just reset the tank, as you can see. The main turret, of course, can move around and everything, and the exhausts give a nice look to them. And then if we go, this guy happens to be rear onto us, so if we just fire at it a couple of times, hose it down with machine gun fire, take off that, bang again into the rear of the tank several times, and yeah, soon enough, yeah, there's the inevitable explosion. So that was the improvements made to all of my tanks, because the Ministry of Brick Warfare never rests when it comes to the safety of your crews and your Brickopolis. So yeah, that was just an overview of all of the tanks that I've made so far, and the improvements that have been made constantly. Oh my god, there's a bit up there. But yeah, so there's all the tanks. I'll thank you for watching, and goodbye.